I was born on May 19, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. I was the fourth child of Lois and Earl Little. First there was Wilfred, then Hilda. Next was Filbert, then there was me, followed by Reginald, Wesley, Yvonne, and Robert. My father, Earl, was a Baptist minister, a civil rights activist, and a strong supporter of Marcus Garvey. Our large family of 10 was continuously terrorized by a white supremacist group called the Black Legion, forcing us to relocate twice before my 4th birthday. In 1931, my mother claimed that she had a vision of my father's death. Later that day, his body was found in horrible condition. His skull was crushed in on one side, his body was almost completely cut in half, and was laid under trolley tracks. Unfortunately, my mother didn't receive much of the insurance money because my father's death was ruled as suicide. After his death, my mother was able to work several jobs cleaning homes because her light complexion fooled her employers into thinking that she was white. But when they found out the truth, she was quickly fired. My brother Wilfred even quit school to get a job and help out the family. I wasn't very much help to my family because I began committing petty crimes that soon got my mother sent to the state mental hospital at Kalamazoo, about 70 miles from Lansing and an hour and a half by bus. All 8 of us children were then split up into different foster homes and orphanages. I used to be the top of my class now that I think back to my school days. I truly believed that I was smart until the 8th grade. My favorite teacher, Mr. Osterworski, taught English. He asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I replied, a lawyer. He told me that it was no realistic goal for a nigger and said that I should be a carpenter. That is where I really lost interest in school. I then moved to Boston to live with my half-sister Ella. There I met Shorty, who helped me buy my first zoot suit, helped me get my first conch, and taught me street slang. In Boston, I had a lot of odd jobs, but one in particular is the railroad job Ella picked out for me. I was about 16 at the time, but I could pass for 21. I saw Harlem for the first time ever. I fell in love with the city, which is why I moved there. Things in Harlem started out great. I had a good job selling reefers and was very popular. I was now known as Detroit Red. Soon I had a slight addiction to the various drugs I used almost daily. I got into some trouble with a fellow named West Indian Archie, and the drama was too much to handle, so I moved back to Boston. I began carrying weapons everywhere I went. I got the reputation of trigger happy. Later on, Sophia, a white woman I used to hang around with, her sister Shorty, and a black Italian named Rudy and I began a burglary system. It was actually quite easy. Because Sophia and her sister were white, they would usually get invited into people's homes. They would search for their family's valuables, tell us their location, and we would retrieve them with ease. Everything was going great until I made the mistake of taking a stolen watch to a pawn shop. We were all caught that night. The judge seemed more upset with our involvement with white women rather than our actual crime. I was sentenced to 7 years in prison. While in prison, I began to study different subjects, such as Latin, history, and English. Also in prison, I got letters from my siblings telling me about their conversion to the Nation of Islam, or in their words, the black man's religion. At first, I didn't really care until I got a letter from my brother Reginald, who I was closest to. He said, "Malcolm, don't eat any more pork or smoke any more cigarettes." He also explained how it would help me get out of prison, so I listened. Later, my sister Hilda came to visit me. She convinced me to write a letter to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Soon I was a member of the Nation of Islam. By 1952, I even changed my name from Little to X. The X signifies my lost tribal name. Little was simply my slave name. I was appointed the minister and national spokesperson for the Nation of Islam. I started new mosques, spoke on the radio and television, and I was even on several newspaper stands. In 1952, we had 500 members. By 1963, we had 30,000. But as membership grew, so did the government involvement. The FBI began monitoring our activities. In 1958, I met and married a beautiful Muslim sister named Betty Shabazz. We had 4 daughters. In 1963, I was betrayed by my mentor Elijah Muhammad. After making a comment on the JFK assassination, he silenced me for 90 days. In March of 1964, I founded the Muslim Mosque Inc. I was done with the Nation of Islam. That same year, I was able to make my pilgrimage to Mecca, Saudi Arabia. The pilgrimage is a required trip for all Muslims. This trip was a truly life-altering trip for me. I met blonde, blue-eyed men that I could call my brothers. This time, when I returned back to the U.S., I had a message for all races, not only African Americans. I even changed my name again to Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. Soon I was warned that the Nation of Islam had marked me for an assassination. A good friend of mine, Cassius Clay, or as you probably know him, Muhammad Ali, let my family and I stay in his home while he trained for a fight with Sonny Liston. Our own home had been firebombed on February 14th, 1965. Luckily, we all